Aloha class, we'll be doing something different today. Yay! Today we'll be covering OpenOffice Calc, which is a spreadsheet program. Spreadsheet programs are used to create and manipulate data electronically. They manipulate the data through math calculations and some very basic database functions. That data can also be used to create graphs and charts. So you can use this in class if you're studying plants for Miss Krista, or any sort of scientific studies that you may do with Meg down in the tent. Spreadsheet programs can also be used for accounting purposes. However, most accountants use QuickBooks or Peachtree or some other similar accounting package. So let's get started. All of the spreadsheet programs out there have three main components. There are the cells. Those are the individual boxes right here. There are the columns. They're right here. And you can widen those by going in between the columns and clicking and then moving them out just like that. So if you need to have like a long title, you can go in there and stretch that out. If you have a very small number, let's say if you're just keeping track of one decimal point or something like that, you can squeeze that column in like this and make it much narrower so you can have more data displayed at any one time. That's pretty cool. And also, the third component is the rows. Rows are the ones that go from left to right, and that is pretty much it as far as the basic structure for a spreadsheet program. Now, how do you use it? You have to first choose what your broad categories are. If that's simply how much money you're taking in for, let's say, a fundraiser, or if that is height of a plant in Miss Krista's case, or a value for a reaction in Meg's class. What you do is take those broad categories and you put them at the top of the columns. So the broad categories are the columns. You don't want to use that first row right off the bat. So row 1 should just be ignored initially. So what you want to do is put those broad categories up there at the top. I'm just going to make a couple here. And then the more specific information, the values, let's say for your scientific study or plant research study, would go into the rows. Now you enter that data by clicking into the row, and then you enter your data, type it in, and then you hit enter. I'm going to do another value right now. I'm going to type in another number here, and instead of hitting enter, I'm going to hit tab just to show you what the difference is here. This can be good if you're doing a particular study. Let's say you're doing a plant study. You take a plant, let's say a coconut tree, and you're measuring how high and how broad the leaves are. You would enter that information on a row of information, one per tree, for example. And then you would use the tab button to go through different values of that tree, the height of the tree, the canopy width, things like that. So basically, whenever you enter information into a cell, it's a 3-stage process. You click into the cell, you enter the data, and then you hit enter if you want to go down, or tab if you want to go to the right. Now the cool thing with these cells and rows and columns and everything that we're working with right now is they can be all configured. You can widen the columns, like I showed you before. You can heighten the rows. Let me show you how that's done. So you can adjust the height of each row. The default value, and again, default means what the program uses without you making any changes, in OpenCalc is 0.16 inches. You can adjust that to any height you want. You want to be reasonable about it. If you make it too high, then you don't see the data very well that's below it. So that's just something you can adjust. You can also adjust a lot of things with regard to cells and columns. Let's do cells first. what I want you to do is go select a cell, and we're going to go to Format and Cells. In here, you can change what type of number you're using. Is it just a general number? Is this a percentage? Is it a currency? Like money. You'll notice that there's different color font there. Red typically means that you're going into the negative. You owe money, or you've taken away money. You can put in date, time, scientific notations, fractions even, which is cool. Boolean values, which is the true or false. We covered that last year a little bit. And then just plain old text. Oftentimes, you just leave it on number and general. You can go in and change the font, the typeface, and the size. You can apply font effects, like the font color. Alignment is more important in a spreadsheet program than many other programs. Alignment allows you to keep the numbers in columns so that if you wanted to add them manually, you could do so easily. You can also adjust borders. And here, this is pretty cool. You get to choose the line weight, how many points or fractions of a point, the spacing of content, left, right, top, bottom, that's inside the cell. You get to choose how the lines move. You can choose all, diagonal, just one side, another side. You can really make your cells look pretty crazy. Okay, you can choose the color of the lines that you're going to be putting in. It's all very cool. Now, if you put in a line by accident and you don't want to have that line there, you would just go up to the top. Now, this isn't too intuitive because when the program opens this window up by default, you do not see the top line. I don't know why that is, but you'd want to choose none. That'll go through and erase whatever lines you're selecting in the box off to the left. Okay. You can also choose the background, and that is what's called the fill. You can choose the background color for the fill. This can really throw things off if you're using heavy colors, so you'd want to use a light color if you're using any colors at all. Sometimes the colors can be really distracting, so I tend not to use colors, even though they could make the spreadsheet look prettier. They can add a distraction unless there's a real purpose for that color being there. Now, what's cool about this is you can apply that same sort of formatting to the columns. Right click and you'd go to Format Cells. But you see, I've got a whole column highlighted. So I've highlighted a whole column. If I go to Format Cells, I can adjust the formatting for that whole column. The trick here is that I've chosen the whole column first, and then I go to Format Cells, and that'll change the formatting for each cell. This gets a little screwy when it comes to borders. You typically don't want to make your borders this way, but you can if you want. You can also do the same thing with rows. So if I highlight this row right here, and I go to Format Cells, it changes the cell formatting, the numbers, the fonts, everything for that whole entire row. Pretty cool. So now I've made a sheet with some data that I'd like you to enter in. Remember that the tab brings you to the right and the enter brings you down. The big categories should be in the columns, not in the rows, and the specific data should be in the rows. Again, if you were doing a plant study, you would have, let's say, plant height as a column, plant canopy as a column, plant overall health appearance could be a column, and then each plant would be a row. That's the best way to organize this. If you do it the other way around, it gets a bit screwy, and it gets more difficult when you want to display this graphically, let's say in a chart. If you have any questions, ask your teacher or help each other out. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.